Fire that occurred in 5 different places in California. I must have to say that I'm still going to take it up with United States government because they named one of the fire Kenneth Fire. It's unacceptable to me. Next time when they have natural disaster, they shouldn't name it Kenneth.
16 people died.
That's by the way. 16 persons
Because of aborted travel
died.
to Ghana.
It warranted the President of United States cancelling his visit, the mayor rushing back to take charge.
Italy.
In Nigeria, tanker explosion. Just one tanker exploded. 98 persons died. Many are still injured in the hospital. Just look at the ratio. And you will know the difference between a responsive and responsible government and an insensitive and irresponsible government. One tanker exploded, 96 died, 98 died. 5 fires broke out in one of the largest cities in the world, and 16 persons died. And it warranted the president to cancel his trip, the mayor rushing back, the governor, all of them were at the spot. And the 16 persons died because they refused to obey the orders of the government that asked that they should evacuate, making the government to forcefully evacuate the remaining people and forcefully stop them from coming back until the fire is completely under control. Now in Nigeria, the tanker started leaking fuel, and the government already knew the disaster because it has happened in October. It happened somewhere in Jigawa, and there was no security agency. There was no government to condone off the place to make sure that people do not come near the place, because they know that because of desperation of people, because of poverty and hardship, they will always think that particular case and incident will be different. So they think they can scoop fuel. A liter will give them 1,000 naira or more. And they may not have eaten for the past days. And there was no government there to ensure that that place is condoned off. And then the tanker exploded, and 98 persons died. Where was your president when it happened? 40 persons were killed, 40 farmers in Borno within the same time. 6 soldiers killed in Borno, 5 soldiers killed by the Lakurawa in the northwest. And your president, first of all, attended the swearing-in ceremony of the president of Ghana. And from there, as he's landing, with all these natural disasters, he jetted out to Abu Dhabi. One would have thought that the other remaining high-level officials would take charge. The vice president jetted out to Davos on purported trade investment fora, and people are dying, being incinerated by fire, and there was no leadership to address the situation. You know why? In genuine democracy, the focus of the government is on the people. That's why democracy has 3 aspects: government of the people, government by the people, government for the people. People, people, people. People-oriented government. When you sit at the table, if you are in a genuine democracy, what you think about is the people. That is what is the variable on the table. But in Nigeria, what the leaders have on their table when they are making decisions is power and money. They are men of power. They are men of money, but never men of the people. And so they don't care. If the people are dying, let them die. Once they can make all the money that they want, once they can travel in the whole world with their ill-gotten wealth and their profligacy in new presidential jets, men of power, as long as they keep feeding themselves and their immediate families with power, they don't care what happened to the people. Men of money, as long as they use every opportunity they have to accumulate more money, they never consider the people. There is no sensitive government that has people in mind that will ever have the president and the vice president out of the country at a time where more than 100 persons have died on the instant because of natural disaster. So we have a government that is a disaster on its own. Our government is natural disaster on its own. So when other disasters are happening, it's just part of the disaster. We are not in a democracy. We are simply in a civilian dictatorship. And that is why they don't care. I can tell you that what the president and the vice have done, the kind of insensitivity that is displayed within this period, is capable of removing a president in office in another clime where the people are the consideration. In South Korea, an impeached president that has not been removed from office, they declared him wanted by the police and they wanted to arrest him. And his own supporters wanted to wage war because they felt, no, he has not been removed from the office. The president himself said, no, I will submit myself because if I don't, it will lead to bloodshed, which will kill people. He was thinking about the people. But we have leaders who will think about themselves, think about their pockets. Men of power, men of their pockets, not men of the people. We need men of the people to govern us in this country.
What are your thoughts on the civilian casualties in Zamfara State due to military bombardment?
You know, the issue of what happened in Zamfara State is very regrettable. Recall that the governor came out and said it was a mistake. And the governor said that the military are doing their utmost best. And in fairness to the military, you can agree with me that the security situation in Zamfara is improving. And the governor also confessed that within that same location and area, that the military confronted the terrorists just within days. So that it was reasonable for the military, seeing anything from the air, to assume that it must have been the military. And then it was reasonable for the military to assume that it could be terrorists if they are seen from the air. This is from the governor. Because the military, that place has been a flashpoint and the military has been encountering terrorists. So when the issue happened, the military will always tell you that at times they will target legitimate targets and then secondary explosions, maybe from the weapons of the terrorists, will explode and then hit other targets. That's what you call collateral damage, unintended damage when a military is targeting a legitimate target. It happens all over the world. Let me use the opportunity to commiserate with the victims. The truth is that it's because of those innocent ones that the military are even risking their lives to protect. So there's no way the military would have started targeting innocent ones when the whole reason that they are attacking the terrorists is actually to protect the innocent ones. So the military should be more careful to reduce collateral damage. And let me use the opportunity to thank them for the good work they are doing for our country. May God bless all of them. May God protect our troops.
What do you think about the FCT minister, Yeson Wike, denying his Igbo ancestry?
Well, you see, The issue of the FCT minister denying his Igbo ancestry is actually very amusing. I've seen the FCT minister, for instance, raising his hand and vowing during the presidential primary of PDP that whoever emerges from this primary as the presidential candidate, that I vow to support the person. He later on supported Tinubu in the presidential election after the vow. And he started saying, no, it's because he's from the South. And then I was asking myself then, when you were making the vow, were you not aware that you had some northern candidates that were contesting? You contested with them. When you were making the vow, did you say, I vow that if any southern candidate emerge from this convention, I'm going to support the southern candidate? Is it, if any person, if anybody emerges, I vow, use the word vow, to support the person? I saw him also vowing he will never say anything against Odelina that will make him to cry. But the things he's saying about Odelina is even making Odeline's followers to scream. Then you can imagine Odeline himself. I saw him also vow that once he leaves office, he will leave his successor to have peace and will not come to disturb him. That is not the kind of person that disturbs his successor. His successor is the most disturbed successor in the whole Nigeria. So he has made a lot of vows which he had recanted. So if you don't like what the FCT minister is saying, just be patient. He will soon change. But let me talk about the issue of ancestry. Nobody chooses where he comes from. It's God that determines where you come from. That is one. Then secondly, the basis of nationhood from the ancient time is language. If you recall the Bible from the Tower of Babel, when God wanted to create nations out of the unipolar world then, he said, let us go and scatter their language. So, when God did it, you discover that people now who understood each other, what they were speaking, now aggregated and became part of one nation. So it is language that determines your nationhood. Ikwere is Igbo, 100%. Ikwere go na Chineke dị mma. Ikwere. Wike means wike. Because in Igbo land, some dialects use the word wike. If you remember, the former Senate president is Adolphus Wagbara. So it's dialectical. Nyesom is Igbo. So by virtue of language, Ikwere is Igbo. And it is in his constitutional right to say he does not want to identify as Igbo. That's his constitutional right. But he cannot say he's not Igbo. Because by language, by tribe, he is Igbo and he doesn't have a choice about it. And again, if Enwike, that is just a politician, talks about Igbo, and the president of Ohanese, who happens to be an Ikwere man, Senator Azoka Mbata, talks on what concerns Igbo. And then Wike's own political leader, who is Fubara, because the PDP concern is very clear. Once somebody is a governor, he is the leader of the state. If Fubara had welcomed Senator Azoka Mbata as the president of Ohanese, who is from Ikwere, I would rather believe these people because they have the political and cultural right to say where Ikwere people are from. And then from their language, Azoka, the back is strong. It is pure Igbo. However, like I said, it is a man who has complex that is even making his nationality an issue. I tell you something. At times, I go to church to give thanks to God for the honor and privilege of making me an Igbo man. You know why? Ndị Igbo are one of the rare gem in the whole world that can create their way out of any problem they are in. After the war, they were given 20 pounds. Before 10 years after the war, they are already the richest wherever they are, adding value, creativity. 22 years after the war, we were already creating living in bondage in Igbo, somewhere in Lagos, that has started Nollywood, that is ranking about the second now in the whole world. Creativity, which is a gift from God. Before the war, you always hear about Igbo man. An Igbo man will sit down, and whenever he has any issue, he creates his way out of the problem. Do you know that since the Igbos were purged out of the civil service of Nigeria, out of the leadership from the highest quarters, Nigeria has never recovered from it? The best time of Nigeria was before the Civil War. And then the Igbos were in charge of practically majority of the sectors in Nigeria. So what I'm telling you is that I thank God. I always ask God, what have I done for you to give me the privilege to be an Igbo man?